Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got a really interesting combination out here to test because it's kind of a little bit of an old school setup, but I honestly think it's probably going to be a pretty decent performer. But as for the shells I brought out here today, I got some of these, the Winchester Supreme Extended Range High Density Turkey Loads. These ones are the 12 gauge 3-inch 1 3/4 ounce payload of 5-shot, moving about 12-25 feet per second. Now from what I understand, they're high density claim is something pretty close to a heavy shot, so a little bit denser than lead. I believe it's somewhere in the 12 to 13 grams per cc. As far as density goes, it's not TSS or anything like that, but for the time period, 2000s type of era, this was a pretty high-end shell for what it was, and they tend to be some pretty solid performers from my testing with them so far. So we'll see how these do through today's also pretty old school type of setup. But as for that setup we've got, I brought out my Remington 870 special purpose. This one dates to mid 90s. I believe it's 94 or something like that. So it is pretty era correct. It has a 24-inch Carlson's barrel on it currently. But for the choke, we've got this guy, which is an old school, like late 90s, maybe early 2000s, factory Remington super full straight rifled turkey choke. Now I'll put a picture up here on the screen of what it looks like on the inside. There are a number of chokes today that also have straight rifling in them, but this one does look a little bit interesting compared to some of the stuff today, and it's kind of hard to measure, but I believe it is somewhere around the 665 constriction range. So definitely a pretty interesting combination of shell, choke, and gun today that should give us a pretty interesting pattern. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the turkey paper at 40 yards and the chronograph so we can get our velocity from the shells. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see what these old Winchester Supreme Extended Range High Density 5s can do through the 870 and the old Remington Straight Rifled Super Full. Could be pretty impressive, could be a little disappointing. I don't know yet, but let's take our shot and see what we get. Alright, so that shell gave us 1226 through the chrono. The boss claim is 1225. So out of that 24-inch barrel, we were 1 foot per second above that boss claim. So we're exactly where we should be. So looking perfect for a velocity, but what kind of a pattern did that old school combo give us down there at 40? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. Now, we do absolutely have a dead bird right off the bat here. There's 3 through the brain and several more down the spine. So yeah, you would have absolutely got that bird, no doubt about it. Our pattern might have been just a touch off to the right, but it does give you a nice little bit of leeway there to work with, and it's a pretty even spread for the most part, right through the middle area of the pattern there. It doesn't have a super hot core or baseball-looking core like the Winchester Longbeard shells do today, but that is still a very capable 40-yard turkey hunting pattern all day long. Now around the edges, we do open it up a little bit. There's a few little strings and flyers and a little bit of splotchy stuff around the edges, so it's not a perfect pattern, but it is a very usable pattern the way it is. Now coming into it, this is about what I expected to see. It's a very old school combination. I mean, technology has come a long way in the last 30 years or so, and that is still a more than usable turkey combination, but it's nowhere near what something like the Winchester Longbeard shells are today. These are much closer to a XX type of performance, just with a little bit denser of a pellet, which does make sense because these are a Winchester Supreme shell, and the Supremes turned into the XX. So that performance does make sense, and it still would be a very viable turkey combination today. If this was a pattern that you were getting in, I don't know, 2005, it would be pretty hard to argue with. That would be a very solid performance for that era. I know a lot of you guys used to use these shells, and a lot of you have said that there really wasn't very many, if any at all, shells back then that you could go buy off the store shelf that would legitimately compete with these. So if they could take turkeys all day long back then, there's no reason why they can't today either. So definitely not the super tight pattern necessarily, but I don't think we were expecting to see that either. If that was centered up a little bit better over there, yeah, there would be absolutely no know where that bird could move to and get away from you. So very solid performance for what these shells and what this choke combo actually is. If this is what I had, I would not hesitate to turkey hunt with that combo, because you would be perfectly fine out to 40 yards and probably 45 yards as well. And if you had a bird in at 20 yards, it would give you a little bit more breathing room than a longbeard shell would today as well. So not bad overall. For a 25-year-old combination, I think it's pretty obvious that that could still absolutely get it done for you all day long. And here's the wad out of that shell. Very standard Winchester equipment here. This looks the exact same as what they use in a lot of their Longbeard and Double X and Super X shells and stuff like that today, but it might be a little bit stiffer. Same shape, just maybe a little bit different type of plastic that they used. Either way, this one looks very much normal. Nothing stuck down in there. We had one petal open up a little farther than the rest, but nothing too out of the ordinary. You can kind of see those stripes down the side of the wad there from the straight rifling in that choke, but they are straight down the side of the wad, so we weren't spinning or anything as we exited the barrel, so that looks good there. Overall, nothing really too special or weird to see here. Looks very much normal for them. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that performance right there? For a 25-ish year old combination, early 2000s type of territory here, that's going to get the job done any day of the week. Whether it was 25 years ago or today, that's going to take you a turkey at 40 yards all day long. Is it as good as something like the Winchester Longbeard shells are today? No, but I don't think we expected it to be either. Back then, that would have been a very, very nice performing shell. And even today, that's still a pretty decent performer overall. I wouldn't hesitate to turkey hunt with that if that's the combination I had. It would absolutely do the job perfectly fine. So I don't think we can really complain too much about that. Might not have the tightest core, might have a few little flyers and strings around the edges, but it's still very capable. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you ever tested or used any of these old Winchester Supreme high density extended range type of shells? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Would you turkey hunt with that combination? Or have you turkey hunted with that combination? And what other shells and choke combos do you want to see with either those old Supreme high density 5s or that old Remington Straight Rifled Super full choke? Let me know all that down below. At the end of the day, I don't think there's much more we can really say about it. I think we pretty much covered it all. Even though it's a 25-year-old combination, you could still confidently take that out on a hunt any day today and be perfectly fine with it. So not bad at all considering what it is. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.